Good morning, everybody, on this wonderful frosty morning, actually, and welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. Ask any questions in the comments or use the hashtag QBATE on Twitter. And if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. So during this live session, we'll be running a poll, so please do engage with it, and I'll reveal the results in the end. Yes, my name is Sean Goldsmith, and I work with a company called The Special Advisor. And what I predominantly do is I work with the franchising industry to help them solve the problems that they face on a day-to-day basis. So it's been really interesting. We are one day away from Britain's next lockdown, Lockdown 2.0. And the big question on everybody's lips is, what are we going to do as small businesses? And, you know, if you think about it, I suppose us small businesses and franchisors are long in the tooth enough to know that 4 weeks doesn't necessarily mean 4 weeks in small business terms, because, you know, you've got to shut everything down, and then you've got to restart. And every single month or even week sometimes that you close operations down, you know, it takes 2 or 3 weeks to actually get yourself started up again. So, you know, in reality, this lockdown is, I suppose, good for the community. It's good for England. It's good for stopping the coronavirus. But it couldn't really have come at a worse time for small businesses in general. But, you know, we're a resilient bunch. You know, we're not called entrepreneurs for nothing. And we're certainly not called franchisors for nothing, because what we do is we solve problems, don't we? You know, and there's absolutely no point in sitting back and feeling sorry for ourselves when really, you know, it could have been so much worse. So the one thing that I would definitely say is, well, I've always done this in my life, and I would suggest that you do this in yours too, is take a look at the past to try and predict the future. So let's talk about the original lockdown. And, you know, that came as a massive shock to the whole wide world, and the franchising world in particular, because if you think about it, franchisors are not only trying to look after their own small business, what they're also doing is they are sometimes helping hundreds of other small businesses find their way and live their dreams and achieve everything that they wanted to in life. So when lockdown happened originally, it was absolute chaos. There was massive amounts of pivoting. There were companies that within 24 hours took a whole sort of, you know, their whole offering online. There were children's sector businesses that were just astounding, you know, from today where they were in village halls and, you know, in locations all across the UK. And the very next day, they were on Zoom and they were offering those same classes to their customers throughout the country. But there were so many sectors that you know, couldn't do that. And we're very, very grateful for all the support that the government gave to the small business community. You know, I'm involved with businesses all around the world. And I have to say, you know, what Britain managed to pull out of the bag, or at least the government did, was far better than what I've seen in other countries. My home country, South Africa, small businesses had no support whatsoever. So, you know, it was really good from that point of view. But the innovation was really key, right? So what we did is we decided to, you know, get ourselves online. You know, we started offering our services. We then realized that once you're online, you're actually competing with the whole wide world, not just with your local community. And strangely, you know, we suddenly realized that by having geographic locations, what you've got is you've got your own little island. You can spot your competitors. When you go online, they're everywhere, you know, and there's a lot more of them. So we had to innovate again, and we had to come up with better solutions for being able to offer these online and interactive sort of courses so that it worked for everybody, and we managed to retain our clients, etc. That was one aspect of it, and that was an absolute key aspect. And then suddenly what happened, especially in the franchising industry, is we realized that the lockdown was going to last a lot longer than everybody expected. The money that people were getting from the government, from bounce back loans, etc., was not going to just be a 3-month problem. You know, the lockdown was going to last a lot longer, and we needed to find ways to generate income and revenue throughout that time. So what happened is all the glass walls that existed previously, those glass walls between competitors, between companies, suddenly became irrelevant. And you saw very, very strong competitors suddenly collaborating and working together. So I run a group called the Franchise Mastermind group on Facebook, and we have about 360 franchisors, so the owners of the franchise networks within that group. And I have to tell you, they are the most extraordinary people. I've never, ever seen people work so selflessly to help their franchisees, survive the whole lockdown scenario. It was wonderful to see. And what the most special bit about it was that people who literally were right next to each other in the competitive market were actively collaborating. They were using words, simple words like, we're all in this together. I know it's a cliche, but it was never ever more relevant at that stage. The collaboration between competitors and companies that actually would complement each other in terms of services. So, for example, the guys who did the dog walking would be collaborating with the guys who did the pet sitting. The swimming schools, as an example, were using a lot of their knowledge, and they were actually trying to get more information out to guys who were doing dance classes. Everything was just happening in the most magnificent way. So this next 4 weeks, we don't have the problems that we had before. We don't have that situation where we don't know what's coming. We don't need to pivot. The one thing that we do need to do is we do need to reignite the fire, because I think this is a bit of a universal truth. The last 4 to 6 weeks, people have really just put their heads down, and they've really just been starting to get momentum in their businesses. And the lockdown now is a little bit of a touch of demotivation. And what I'm here to tell you to do as entrepreneurs and as business owners and as franchisors, right, is dig deep once again. Just dig deep once again. You guys can actually do this. There's always solutions to problems, and don't feel overwhelmed by it. Anyway, so we are actually starting to see some questions coming through. Please, if you do have any questions, please pop them through in the usual way. I guess my last sort of comments to you are really, think about what your planning is going to be looking like over the next few weeks. This is a 4-week lockdown, but in all honesty, a number of politicians have now confirmed that they cannot confirm the length of the lockdown. So in terms of your planning, plan for February or March. Make all the plans that you need to be able to ride out quite a long lockdown, and then find yourself in a position where you are pleasantly surprised because it doesn't last that long. But whatever you do, don't plan for just a 4-week lockdown, because it just puts you in an awful position again when if you get to that and there's an extension for whatever reason. Anyway, so we have got a question from Phoebe from Instagram. Morning, Sean. Are you seeing any trends in the kind of franchises that have picked up post the first lockdown? Certainly. I mean, the one sector that I think has been absolutely flying is the home care sector. I mean, they've been heroic. I think that's the only word I can use. So the franchising sector, if you think about the home care side of things, they have been the largest contributor to going into the homes of the elderly and the most vulnerable, during lockdown. It's been incredible. They're private people. They're not part of the NHS necessarily, but they really have been propping up Britain in a big way. So they are one of the industries where we can confidently put a little stamp next to their name and say pandemic proof as a franchise. Extraordinary humans. There have been a number of other sectors that have done well, but that one really stands out in my mind. So take a look at it. I think it's well worth it if you are in the market for franchises at the moment. And then we have Laura from Twitter. Hi, Sean. My question is regarding the hiring for a franchise. Will the franchisor help me with hiring and training, or is it the responsibility of the franchise owner? Laura, really, really good question. The answer is both. So what a good franchisor will do is they will give you all of the tools and all of the knowledge in order to be able to do the hiring. Depends on the sector too, because as we were talking about the home care sector, it's a little bit more involved. There's police checks and all that kind of thing that need to happen. But generally speaking, this is still your business. Although you're part of a franchise, it is still your business, right? And when you hire people, you need to be confident with them. It's very, very difficult for a franchisor from their head office or wherever it might be to be able to make that kind of call on your behalf. But they will give you guidelines, and they will say to you, look, you should try and aim for this type of person versus this type of person, this type of CV versus that type of CV. But again, you've also got the added benefits of a franchise network around you. So, you can speak to your other franchisees, just have a word with them and figure out, what has worked and what has not worked. I think that's probably the best advice I can give you. Otherwise, just phone your franchisor and just say, look, I need some extra help. And I'm 100% sure that they definitely would. Right, next question. We have Jenny from Instagram. Hi, have there been any changes to the amount of money required to invest in a franchise business, or has it become lower because of the pandemic? A very, very good question, actually. So we had a bit of a debate about this in the Franchise Mastermind a few days ago. A lot of franchises have lowered their prices. A lot haven't. I've got a slightly different view on the actual charges that a franchisor puts up front, so the initial franchise fee. In many ways, if you can afford the original price, that's a really good thing for you, because what you do want, if you're buying into a franchise, is you want a strong and stable franchisor, right? So if the franchisors are, cutting down their prices just to make sales, I would take a deep look at that. There are some great businesses out there, and if you are able to pay the full franchise fee, just remember they're a business, right? So if this was your business and you had to cut your margins massively by 50% or whatever that case might be, it's going to affect your ability to be able to provide a service. So, in the best possible way, what you want is your franchisor to be as strong as humanly possible, especially now, because then they can provide you, they're financially able to provide you with all of the support and the help that you need. So yeah, I have seen that trend happening. Whether I agree with it or not, I'm not sure yet. Time will tell. Right. Anyway, Darcy from Facebook. Let's just take a look at what Darcy has to say over here. Right. So Darcy says, you've talked about strategic alliances and means of marketing. Can you share some examples of businesses who have used this route to grow during lockdown? I can actually. So we've got a couple of businesses that I know of. The pet care sector has been really, really good at this, because there are some businesses that are just doing pet sitting, and there's dog walkers. Those guys have been collaborating really, really well. I know that with the children's sector, there's been a lot of collaboration over there. I still remember one example in particular. One of the founders of a company called Popolo Ceramico, she put together a TikTok video with a bunch of other franchisors. It was really, really great to see, because it was really, really interactive, and they were passing the ball from one screen to another. So there must have been about 5 franchisors involved in that. But other than that, also franchisees have been working really well together. So when they're in similar sectors, just contacting their competitors, and this has often been the franchisors who have been encouraging them. Contacting their competitors and just saying, listen, let's just split the money on an advert, a local advert. So magazine adverts, as an example, taking a full page and doing the artwork, as half pages sometimes can work out a little bit cheaper than, going for the quarter page or the half page yourself. I hope that answers the question. There are a lot more examples. If you want to contact me directly, just via email, I'd be more than happy to talk you through how that can work and, how that might work for your business. Right, Sarah from Twitter. Morning, Sean. I've been planning on taking a franchise since last year. I postponed the idea during lockdown, but I'm looking at it again. Should my research to find the right franchisor be conducted any differently during these times? Sarah, and this advice is advice I was giving to people pre-lockdown too. The single most important thing that you can do when you are researching a franchise is to get to know the people who are going to be supporting you on an ongoing basis, right? So quite often what happens when people buy a franchise is they are faced with a franchise salesperson. And that franchise salesperson is, generally a very genuine human being. They are telling you all the facts about the franchise. But that being said, they are quite charismatic, and, they're all of these great things, and they often will say what you want to hear. What you want to do is, during your franchise recruitment process, as you're going through those steps, spend some time with the support team, right? Ask to speak to the head of support. Ask to speak to the head of operations, right? Because those are the people that are going to be with you for the next 5 years if you buy your franchise, right? So they are absolutely critical. Find out how long they've been with the business. Ask them, good and interesting questions that give you an indication as to how they will help you deal with particular situations. Speak to the marketing person, understand more about their role and how they've helped other franchisors or franchisees. Very, 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 very important, because I've seen this hundreds of times, and I've literally helped launch over 1,000 small businesses over the last 18 years. And very rarely do people want to know very much about what the operational team are doing. So that's my advice to you. That's the big change. And then the other bit of advice that I would definitely give is speak to some of the franchisors and simply ask them, how is your franchisee? Speak to the franchisees and ask them how the franchisor has dealt with lockdown. So in the vast majority of cases, certainly the franchisors within the Mastermind, the feedback from their franchisees has been unbelievably positive. Just loads and loads of emails. And I know this because the franchisors were overwhelmed, and they would post this into the Mastermind group. So, speak to the franchisees, ask them how the franchisor dealt with the lockdown. And that's probably the best two sources of information that you could have when buying a franchise. And again, honestly, if you need any advice or you just want to talk it through, I'm available. Just contact me and I'm more than happy to talk you through things like that. Right, Andrew from Instagram. Sean, you spoke about innovation, like going online and investing in digital marketing is key to surviving the current climate. How should one look at these innovations? As a short-term solution to put the fire out, or invest only in long-term solutions? Look, I own a franchise network that's actually, this is quite an important question. So pivoting and going online has been a crucial element of their survival, right? So in order for them to actually survive the lockdown, they had to go online. But their customers are absolutely desperate for that face-to-face contact again, right? So the demand for face-to-face has if anything, gone up. And the online offering is still a challenging thing, because what you do have to do is you've got to spend money. You've got to spend money to try and just get your name out there at the moment in digital marketing. I mean, Facebook has been the hero in terms of marketing platforms, I think, over the lockdown, especially on a local basis. A lot of franchisors have got a lot of headway, but also things like Instagram Reels, etc. Those have been really good, and live broadcasts are great for all of that. But in answer to your question, what I would say is I don't think that digital or face-to-face are necessarily going to be sort of mutually exclusive, if you know what I mean. So what I would say is that, have your digital offering, keep continuously sort of developing that and making it better, but still remember that we are humans, right? We crave contact. And at some point, the classes are going to open, and the ability to be in a room with people is going to exist. And I think if you don't keep that in the back of your mind, albeit in a hybrid type of form, I think that you probably lose out a little bit. So, think about digital as something that is just now part of your offering. And still remember just to have the face-to-face sort of side of things going. I think that's pretty much the best advice that I can give, I guess, at this stage. Again, feel free to contact me if you have any questions at all. Right, I've got a question here from Victor from Instagram. So let me just quickly get this up a little bit. Sorry, guys. I've taken a fitness franchise and I'm thinking of terminating the agreement. What is the right way to go about it? I might want to go back to it once we're back to normal life after COVID. Victor, look, the big challenge that you have is that franchise agreements are very robust. So the best way to go about moving away from the franchise is to speak to your franchisor. So take a look at what your franchise agreement says. And have a word with your franchisor and see whether or not there's a possibility of suspending the agreement and having it start up at a later stage, or something of that sort. It's very, very difficult because even in the COVID times, the franchise agreements are incredibly strong. So if the franchisor decides to, to say, well, look, actually, Victor, you need to stay on and we need to push this and, there's ability to carry on, then, it's very, very difficult to wiggle out of that agreement. I know it's not necessarily the right phrase there, but these things are not designed to make it easy for people to sort of get out, because they need to protect the brand, and that's what a lot of people don't really sort of understand about franchise agreements. They're not there to try and, target specific people or be overly harsh with anybody. What they are there to do is to actually protect the network. So, if your gym in good times outside of COVID, if your gym was open for 3 weeks, and then closed down, the impact on the brand would be vast across the country. So the best advice: go and speak to your franchisor. I think at this stage, most of them are going to be very, very sort of open to ideas. If they're willing to allow you out of your franchise agreement, I think that that's the best way to go. Gary from Twitter: how are you motivating your clients and keeping the spirits high in these times? Grit and smiles, Gary, is the answer. Look, it's tough for all of us. It is absolutely tough for all of us. The amount of time, I was just saying to somebody yesterday, I looked at my calendar and I don't have a lunch break or a supper break for the next 2 weeks, starting early in the morning and finishing early at night. The thing that I keep in my head is that, this is not the worst it can be. And I'm very, very grateful for what we actually do have. And I think that gratitude is going to be a really key sort of element over here. My grandfather, my grandmother was in Paddington during the war, and, granddad was on one of the Royal Navy ships. And, I think that I get a lot of my strength and attitude just from listening to what they went through before. And I know it's not the same thing, but, I kind of feel like it's just a duty to keep a positive attitude and keep going. And my attitude affects the clients and the people that I work with, right? So within the Franchise Mastermind, we are doing lockdown 2.0, and we're ramping up the energy. And I know that my role is to be the pilot flame that fires up the boiler. So I think it's just down to a positive attitude. And digging deep and just finding the shining lights in the darkness. There's nothing more than that, and you'll be very surprised how quickly people will come to you and gain their energy from your energy. I think that's probably what I have to say about that. Kingsley from Facebook Messenger: for someone who is planning to invest in a franchise, what do you think the top most factors one should focus on in the beginning days of business? You know what, Kingsley, the answer is very, very simple. If you're buying a franchise, do two things. Listen to your franchisor. They've done it lots and lots of times before. And you might have a good idea, but they've probably tried it and it's either worked or not worked. And if it has worked, they would have told you about it. The second thing is, don't focus on anything else except getting clients, right? Network like it's going out of fashion. At the moment, there are so many networking opportunities out there. As far as I can tell, BNI is still doing free sessions all across the country, and BNI is one of the most effective sort of networking groups in the UK, if not the world, for generating business, right? But it's because they're very disciplined and they're very, very structured. But you could probably, within about 15 minutes, find 15 or 20 different networking groups that you could join online at the moment. And I would just go and do that and build relationships and just speak to humans, and do it on a face-to-face basis. If you can get on the Zooms, get on them, and speak to the people, because, I've seen a huge number of people just sending me crazy amounts of invites on LinkedIn. Please follow this company. Please do this. Please do. I don't know them. I might link in with them, but I don't know them. And once I get onto Zoom and once I start doing networking, right, it changes, because I can see a person's face and, I can start building a basic relationship. And then the second thing to do is, once you're on those Zooms and once you have sort of spoken to people, you need to follow up with them, because it's absolutely pointless in talking to somebody once. It didn't even work when, lockdown didn't exist. So, if you're digital, you're much more easily forgotten, I think. So follow up, try and do a one-to-one, try and spend an hour with the person, and whatever you do, don't try and sell to them, at that point. Just build relationships, and I promise you, everything will work out well. So yeah, the only other things that I would say you should do is just get involved in social media. Never forget about Twitter. A lot of people forget about Twitter because they think that it's a bit old school. But remember, the generation that's on Twitter now is very different to the generation that was on Twitter a few years ago. So that's a great opportunity. Facebook and Instagram are always powerhouses. Just get onto them and just talk to humans. Just speak to people. Be honest, and don't try and market too much. Don't try and be too big. Just be honest and authentic, and that's always worked well for marketing. Isabella from Facebook Messenger. Hi, Sean. My question is regarding pivoting. Does pivoting your business operations have any adverse effects on the brand? We built a brand that prides itself in personal contact and custom solutions for our customers. Online deliveries seem like a step away from our core brand value. Isabella, yes, is the answer, but yes and no. They do damage your brand in the sense that, it's not what you've always done, and it's not the service that people have, come to love and trust. But during these times, I think people are a little bit forgiving. So your online offering, or at least your pivoted offering, is just a new type of offering, right? If you can stick to your core values and you can really up the customer service, there's one thing that we always do in the franchising world, at least in the franchises that I work with, is we focus on moments of magic. So, when, as an example, there was a franchise I worked with that did shutters, and one of the moments of magic that we would always focus on, right, was when the installation was complete and we did the unveiling, right, there would also be flowers out there, right? Now, this is an example of of face-to-face contact. But if there is anything that you can do with your online sort of service, or any additional little, heartfelt thing that you can do for your customers, that's really going to make a big, big difference, to everything that you're doing. So anyway, guys, we're gonna go onto the poll results now, and the poll results are in. We asked you, do you have enough buffer set aside for the second UK lockdown? And 67% of you said yes, and 33% of you said no. Well, that's fantastic. I mean, that is absolute credit to you guys. And in terms of the actual buffer, I guess the big question is whether or not that lockdown is going to last for 4 weeks. But for you guys to be in a position where you actually do have a buffer is absolutely fantastic. Be careful with the money that you have, right? Be very smart with the marketing that you do from now on. And I guess my message is, if you are going to be doing marketing and you are going to be putting yourself out there, make sure that it's authentic. Make sure that you are speaking from the heart when you're talking to your customers, and put them first, and the rewards will come in without a doubt. Right, guys, so any questions, please get in touch with QuickBooks support team on Facebook, or myself on sean@thespecialadvisor.com, or visit my website, which is also www.thespecialadvisor.com. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Judith Dugdale, who heads up digital solutions team at MHA Moore and Smalley. Judith is an expert in helping business owners improve their in-house financial reporting function and bookkeeping efficiency, as well as providing proactive support to help those businesses grow profitably. If you have any questions about the last update from the government, tune in tomorrow and get advice. A reminder that if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBook SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. And as I said, I'm always available. So if you have any questions, please contact me, and I'd be more than happy to help.